fire in the heart. On my food, on my food, on my food. Right now, man, on my food, on my food.
All right, folks. So in the aftermath of significant events in Jamaica, such as natural disasters, price gouging has become a pressing concern for consumers. Today, Mrs. Dolsie Allen, Chief Executive Officer of the Consumer Affairs Commission, joins us to discuss the impact of this practice and how her organization is addressing it. Welcome, ma'am.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having us.
Before we move,
good to see you.
You are from St. Elizabeth.
Yes.
You get some leaks.
Yeah.
Plenty.
Beryl wasn't very kind to us down there at all.
What about your personal space?
My personal space, well, we never lost our roof for the main house, but all the other, like the storeroom, the outside kitchen, as country folk, we have outside kitchen to do all the roast breadfruit and the fried fish and those things.
Everything gone.
Those went, and relatives around me, like my sister, she lost a part of her roof.
Were you there during the hurricane?
No, I was actually in Kingston. I was in Kingston.
Got a good clap down there, but it's good to see how the community is rallying.
Yes.
In St. Elizabeth, outside of St.
Right. So we really want to send from the Consumer Affairs Commission, send all our love down there to folk who are there, and just to let them know we are here at the Consumer Affairs Commission to assist in whatever way we can as they rebuild.
Do we have a history of price gouging when things like these happen? Do we have a history of prices just jump all about the place?
It has been the norm. It has been the norm. Right, but I don't know if we could term it as price gouging. We see excessive pricing.
Mm-hmm.
And normal.
What's the difference with excessive and gouging?
Let me tell you, the excessive pricing, you'll have to prove price gouging. And price gouging is if the price increases as a result of a major catastrophe. For example, when we had COVID or we had previous hurricanes or so on, and immediately the price of items go up. The prices go up.
Did we have price gouging during COVID?
We had reports of some price gouging. We did our investigations, but it didn't reach the level of our prosecuting anyone.
Did we have excessive?
We had excessive pricing. The challenge we are having is that sometimes, how do you determine excessive pricing? When I look and see what happens in other jurisdictions, for example, in the US, they actually have a definite figure to say, okay, anything above 10% or above 15%. We don't have that here in Jamaica.
So what do we use?
So we use basically what is norm or what is in the industry norm.
So excessive would be 10% and gouging 20?
That's what I'm saying. So like in the US, 10% can be seen as gouging.
Oh.
Yeah,
so then we need
because of their type of economy that they have. It's a more mature economy and the whole economy is very different from us here in Jamaica. If I say 10%, it would not raise an eyebrow for me.
Yeah. So within the context of consumer protection, though,
right?
Do we need to build, what would it be, policy? What kind of framework?
It is something that we're looking at. Well, what has happened, though, during these times, the government can give a special order that prices are not to be increased as a result of a major catastrophe. Example, burial. So the minister has actually given an order, which is, it really is the sale of goods during a declaration of a disaster. And if found that you have increased your prices just because of, it's not a situation where your cost of production went up or your cost of doing business went up as a result, you're giving all these increases, but you just give a whopping because a demand has been created as a result of that disaster and you're taking advantage of that.
But how can you prove that they
right.
didn't have to put
so what we have done and what we do every year for hurricane season, we do some surveys and we get prices. Mm-hmm. So we have reference prices. So the first week in June, we were out there in the marketplace and we have prices. We did about 94 hardware stores. So we have prices what they were selling the product for at that particular time. And as far as we know, there has not been any major or significant event other than the hurricane that would have caused you to significantly increase your prices. And it is just so unfortunate, because we're all in this thing together. Businesses are consumers too. And if it is that I am your customer and I'm having a disastrous time right now, and you're going to be increasing your price on me, when things go back to normal, I will not be coming back to your store.
So here's my question to you, Ms. Dolsie, because that's an interesting point you've raised. And we hear consumers complaining of it even out of COVID.
Right.
Is that once we hit excessive pricing or even gouging,
right,
we're not seeing those prices come back down.
Yeah, that is also a challenge. You see, when we're in a free market environment, it is difficult for us to regulate. We can't control prices. And that is why we say to consumers, you have to exercise your power. And
educate yourself.
And educate yourself. That's where the Consumer Affairs Commission come in. So we ask persons complain from time to time that there has been price gouging, and they make general statements. We're saying to you, if you have proof, if you purchase something just prior to the hurricane, a particular item, let's say some plyboard, and then immediately after the hurricane, it is increased by up to 50%, 100% in some cases, I gather. Then you have to take those 2 receipts to us at the Consumer Affairs Commission, and we will do our investigations.
You said earlier that no one was prosecuted, so you can be prosecuted because you put up your price?
Right. If it can be proven that is as a result of the disaster that you have increased your price. When the investigations are done, if we don't see where you had any other increase in prices in your business model or anything untoward happen other than the fact that there's a greater need. So we have to know how to balance the thing between demand and supply and basically excessive pricing or gouging.
But you have already said that you can't prove whether it was... So
I'm saying that is where the investigation comes in. The business now will have to prove to us that as a result of A, B, C, D happening, and we have the authority to go in and to examine their books. So they cannot hide these things from us. So we would have known that prior to, and we would have done the surveys before. We didn't do 100%, but we did most of the major hardware stores across the island. So we have an idea of what your prices were prior to.
But what about farmers now? I mean, they are selling their stuff to the markets. But them have to go find more money because of this. So
that's what I'm saying.
How you can vex with them?
That's what I'm saying. After the investigation,
I say that because you used a hardware store as your example. Which is a little bit different. But if me a plant my little thing and barrel wash away everything, and I have to find money from all about to kind of restart.
He's saying you pass on the cost to the consumers. He's asking what's wrong with it.
Yeah, what is wrong with that?
Nothing is wrong in passing on the cost to the consumer because as a business, you're in business, right? But what I'm saying is that if your cost was 50% more, you cannot be putting on 80%. That's the point I'm making. You have to be reasonable. And we ask that business that it be fair to the consumer.
And the consumer can prove that it wasn't reasonable.
Right. And we need the receipts. We need the receipts. Yes. In order to prove. Persons complain all the time that this is happening here, that is happening there, but these are just anecdotal type of evidence. We need the real thing so we can go after those persons.
So I bring the receipts to you, Ms. Dolsie. What happens from then? So I have the pre-burial ply money, receipt, and the post. What happens after?
But before I go to that part of it, though, it's not only goods, services as well. So like masons and carpenters know their prices tend to go up during this time because the need is there. So that is also an area that really outside our remit. It's outside our remit, but it's one thing I just want to caution persons as well. I was
just going to say, how do you hold those folks accountable? Because some of them are the most skilled tradesmen.
Yes. So we have been speaking to the Master Builders Association for them to give us an idea of what are the normal going rates, But that aspect of it, as I said, is outside our remit. But certainly I want persons to be aware. And consumers, even though we're having a challenging time now, I'm encouraging us not to always just throw a hand in the air and say, look, I can do better. We're still to exercise our power of choice. We can still shop around, even though there are challenges now. We can still shop around. You had asked me a question before.
Yes, but I want to touch on what you said about master builders. Will you be making that information public as well, the going rates for tradesmen?
Right, we will do that. And we also, when we complete our report, because we were out in the market all week last week, checking on the prices of the basic items that are needed now during this crisis.
Can you tell us what you found?
That's what I'm saying. We have not yet completed a report, but as soon as that report has been completed, we will make it public.
The question I had asked you before now
is the how.
Yes, what do we expect as consumers when we come to you and say, here are the receipts?
Right, so we go to the particular vendor and we do our investigation from there. whatever we ask for in terms of their books, in terms of their records, they have an obligation under the Consumer Protection Act. And also under this order that the minister has given, it's dated July 2. And by the way, there are fines. If you're found guilty, you can be fined up to $1 million. Up to $1 million. So it is not a joke thing. It's a serious thing. We hope we don't have to reach this stage, and we hope that persons will use their hearts to say, okay, yes, you're in business, yes, but we want you to be fair, we want you to be reasonable.
Yeah.
So we'll do our investigation. And if you cannot prove to us that you had other expenses that are significant to have resulted in your...
Do I get recourse? Do I get money back, or do you just find the business?
We just find the business. You're not, it's not, doesn't go
My
into
first question to you was if there's a history of us doing this.
Right.
What have you found over previous hurricanes?
That's what I'm saying. We have found increase in prices.
I know, but was there like price gouging and stuff?
That's what I'm saying. We didn't find price gouging. We did some investigation. There are about 3 cases probably during COVID that we really thought we would have reached the level of price gouging.
But isn't that good then? That not good that we're not finding anybody jumping all over the place?
It is good on one hand, but because we have the complaints happening all the time, there are persons who thought we were not as effective as we ought to have been, you know. So we're trying our best to ensure that we protect you. Persons, we need cooperation. We need cooperation. And so it's one of those difficult cases to prove, but it is not impossible. Other countries, the US, Europe, all those other developed countries are doing that, and they have actually charged persons. And I know it's not impossible, but we will be here at the Consumer Affairs Commission. We will be very vigilant this time around.
The order from the minister says what? You can't go over 5%, you can't go over 10%, or you can't put it up at all. It
didn't state a percentage. It said you shall not increase your prices.
Period.
Period?
Right, it should not increase.
Even a dollar?
It said it should not increase. But then again, there are parts about further on in the order that speaks about reasonableness or fairness.
Yeah.
Because we have to be realistic as well.
Yes, Madam Dolsie. I think the next steps coming out of this is to put some KPIs around reasonable and fairness, because everybody has a different interpretation.
That's what I'm saying. So it depends on your business model, and that is where the investigation is important.
So that's what your CSC is working on now, putting some measures around it so that...
What the criteria are, so we can at least advise the public.
Absolutely.
Oh man, I love it.
Absolutely.
I love it. Beautiful. I hope your area, you will recover.
I really hope so. Our people, the word resilience seems to be very popular these days, but our people in St. Elizabeth, they really are hardworking and resilient, and they have been working hard. And I really want to commend them. I want to commend the community spirit. Persons have just been coming out and helping.
Village.
It's amazing.
Village,
it's simply amazing.
So when they did, no dash away, trust me, they don't play down there.
Yes, so we just wish them all the very best as they bounce back.
Yes.
Yeah, man. Thanks for coming. God bless you.
Thank you for your
thanks for having us. And
guys, CSC is there to serve you. So remember, if you have an issue with any kind of general pricing issue, what else they call you for?
Defective items.
Yes.
Yes, they call us for they're not late, non-delivery or late delivery of items that they have purchased.
You could have called them the other day. Wow. Yes. So if your supplier has not held to their part of the bargain, essentially, then we can call it CSC.
Right. There is a part of the Consumer Protection Act that protects you.
Okay.
Yeah, thanks,
awesome.
man. Thanks for
coming.
coming.
Okay, thanks for having
Chief Executive Officer of the Consumer Affairs Commission, CAC, Dolsie Allen.
After a break, we'll explore strategies for managing our lands following a disaster. Stay tuned. Soon come. Barely in a way.